Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Zoan devil fruits have a great diversity of forms that could be used in the middle of battle, and this allows the user to have a variation of different combinations to use and gives them a very marked advantage when they use these individual transformations. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the Zoan type devil fruit, how powerful they are, what 3 transformations they have, and how users of these fruits could become even stronger. But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel or even if you watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like or even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or your favorite with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, Zoan devil fruits are one of the 3 types of devil fruits that exist in the world of One Piece. And some can be the rarest and most powerful fruits of any of the 3 types because it has subclasses that have a great variety that may even surpass the utility of the Logia fruit. The Zoan fruit first allows the user to transform into some kind of being, which could be an animal, a mythological creature, or even in a mythological being. And the rarer the fruit, the more powerful that being tends to be. Zoan fruits also give their users 4 different transformations. The first being the human form, or kind of the natural form of whoever owns the fruit. And in this state, the power of the fruit is quite limited, being able to only use maybe some enhanced strength, endurance, and speed that the fruit gives to the user. Some fruits do allow the user to manifest a little bit of the more unique powers being in their human, but it's on a much smaller scale, and this has been demonstrated with Luffy, Marco, and even Yamato. But not all fruits and users have this ability. A great example of this is Kaido. Now, sure, he can kinda use a Boro Breath style attack in his hybrid form, but it's not nearly as powerful as the full version he gets in his dragon form. So if we want to kind of think about Boro Breath as the full technique, Kaido can only really do it when he's in his full dragon form. And we've also seen this with other characters in the world of One Piece that have Zoan devil fruits. The second transformation that a Zoan user gets is their hybrid state, which allows them to transform into a being where they partially exhibit their, mythical or animal being's abilities, while also retaining a human form and some of the characteristics in their natural state. Finally, Zoan users can also fully transform into the animal or being and completely gain the creature's body and leave their humanoid form behind. And some creatures offer great advantages, while others just transform into a conscious version of the animal. With the complete transformation, the user can maintain their consciousness and mind and their fighting ability while using the body of some common animal, prehistoric, or even mythical creature, depending only on the animal that is inside the fruit. While in this full animal form, it makes it possible for the user to have all the powers and techniques that that animal or being possesses. And normally, mythical level fruits have much greater ranges of attacks and available powers than other Zoan subclasses. One unique feature of this class of devil fruit, unlike Paramecia or Logia classes, is that the Gorosei have said that Zoans seem to carry their own wills even when they aren't consumed, as if the beings that dwell within them act in a different way and can even affect their will on the rest of the world, or at least their surroundings. Consider the story of the animenomi, or the sun god fruit. While it was without a bearer, the fruit always found a way to get away from the world government. No matter how many times the world government seemingly got their hands on it, the fruit always managed to escape and they couldn't ever possess it. And this is over a range of 800 years potentially. But getting back to our description of Zoans, these devil fruits are divided into 3 categories, and the first of which is common animals such as jackals, dogs, wolf, bison, giraffe, oxen, snake, and many other animals that we just haven't seen yet. But even though one might look down on this first class, there's still a huge amount of variation. I mean, even if we just took our own world and paralleled it against the world of One Piece, there've got to be Zoans out there that could be anacondas, king cobras, maybe even whale fruits, because we did see that Kaido, although a mythical style, was a fish fruit. And if there's that, who's to say that there isn't some other kind of mammalian or even full fish style devil fruits? The second category of Zoan fruits are the prehistoric ones, and these enable the user to transform into some kind of dinosaur. And usually the fruit is called something along the Rio no Mi, and the name of the dinosaur as Spinosaurus, Pterodon, Allosaurus, among many others that we saw, especially during the Wano arc. Unlike the common Zoan fruits, where we might see different breeds of dog or cat when we see those kinds of devil fruits, these ancient Zoan fruits don't appear to have many deviations of the same species, as if to say that there's only one kind of Spinosaurus fruit, only one one kind of pterodon fruit, and so forth, making these very unique fruits to possess. And finally, the last type of Zoan fruit, which indeed is a fruit rarer than the Logia fruit itself, is known as the Mythical Zoan. And these fruits give the incredible powers to their users. And because they are very rare, very few people have them, and we may have seen most of them throughout our series. So far, we've seen the Phoenix, Kitsune, Dragon, Buddha, Makami, Yamato no Orochi, and Nika Nika fruits. And these are the fruit that have the powers that resemble a Logia, giving the bearer the power of some element or material because they're accessing it through this mythical beast or mythical creature. The Phoenix fruit, as an example, gives the user flames capable of healing and don't burn. The Kitsune fruit gives the user the ability to transform into anyone. The Dragon fruit can create flames and clouds that can lift entire islands, where the Buddha fruit has the ability to use light in their punches, and the Makami the ability to create ice and even an ice shell around their body. The Yamato no Orochi fruit gives their user survival because since it's a Hydra, it can lose different numbers of heads and the user remains alive. And finally, the Nika fruit gives the ability to turn the user's body into rubber and is only limited by the user's imagination. Sengoku's fruit, the Buddha no Mi, has a very unique transformation that's quite different from those other devil fruits, because instead of transforming into a living being, it seems that he transforms into an animated golden statue, something similar to standard Buddha statues we might see in temples and monasteries. Throughout our story of One Piece, we've seen Luffy use his fruit in not only just creative and novel ways, but in certain ways that made it actually almost seem like a Logia. And through creating different transformations with his haki, we saw his gear systems enhance his power. But if we think about it, these could be certain forms of hybrid transformations for him. Think about what Chopper was able to do with his transformations after the time skip. He himself has several transformations, albeit we do have to admit that this is through his understanding of medical technology and his rumble balls. But his human transformation may not have been awakened yet. But as we've seen, it's necessary for the user to get great control over their fruit to be able to become their complete form. Another thing about Chopper that we could say is some have speculated that his monster point was actually the awakening of his fruit, and when he forced that transformation with his rumble balls, that was why he kind of seemed out of sorts, because if we think about the guards at Impel Down, those users are said to have had awakened Zoan fruits. So perhaps when one first turns, if they're not fully ready, the animal instinct overpowers their human minds. But getting back to our favorite rubber captain, it was only during the awakening of Luffy's fruit where he was able to transform fully into his Nika form, or at least maybe just a hybrid Nika, because we don't know what this form really entails. And perhaps the gear system that Luffy developed are his various form of hybrids, especially when you consider the diversity of attacks and forms he has in Gear 4. So far, it's only been Luffy and Sengoku that have a transformation that looks like they still keep their human, at least appearance, but they have elements of the divine nature of their being infused into them. And this is due to the fact that, of course, their fruits are divine in origin. Like Sengoku's and that fruit of the Buddha, it's a title given to those who have reached enlightenment, and in this way, Sengoku becomes a large entity, gaining only just a few characteristics of a Buddha statue. Luffy, on the other hand, possesses the Nika Nika fruit, and it's the fruit of the sun god. And with this transformation complete, Luffy not only gains a few characteristics of the deity, but he gets the white hair, the clothing, and seems to have that telltale smoke surrounding his body as well. From what we've seen in the series, normal hybrid forms of Zoans always tend to be kinda bipedal, and the only known hybrid forms of human users that are not two-legged are the Gorgon sisters, because the Hibi Hibi no Min fruits are snakes, and snakes of course don't have legs. Another effect shown for many of the different Zoan types is that when somebody moves into their hybrid state, sometimes the user tends to grow larger than they normally are, and can sometimes change to even gigantic proportions. Although this isn't always the case as well, because if you think about Marco, he just gains claws on his feet and the wings. His body doesn't really increase in size, and so this may only pertain to a few living things that are bigger than the original user. And also, some beast forms are also larger than the actual animal. If you consider the Neko Neko no Mi model saber-toothed tiger, when the bearer is in their full transformation, they become quite gigantic. organic. When we saw Who's Who change, we saw that he was larger than an elephant, and although saber-toothed cats were incredibly large, they wouldn't exceed the size of an elephant. So this would actually make it easier to see if this is a human with a devil fruit or the actual animal. And plus, most Zoan devil fruits in the full form always have some characteristic of the user. Going back to Marco for a second, in his full phoenix form, he still has his white beard crew tattoo on his chest, as well as also having the same eyeglasses. Or even if you think about Kaido when he's in dragon form, he has the same mustache and hair and horns that he does in his base form. But overall, most Zoan fruits provide just the 3 basic forms at their beginning. However, just like I mentioned before, through training or the use of medicinal or chemical means, it could be possible for the Zoan user to unlock additional transformations, just like when I talked about Chopper earlier in the video. Another example aside from Chopper would be Black Maria from Kaido's crew. You see, she used a similar drug to alter her own beast form, and just as Chopper was able to train himself, perhaps she was able to then train her new Zoan body without the use of a rumble ball. With the other flexibility that we've seen among all the different Zoa types, it might even be possible for a person to choose which parts of their body transform, as in the case with Marco, who can transform any part individually into his phoenix form without the need to enter his hybrid or full phoenix transformation. If we think about it, we might even be able to include Luffy in this category, since he can already modify any part of his body at any time he wants, making it as big or small as he wants, unless there's kind of a setback, as we've saw when he first learns new techniques. But it's also important to note that not all Zoans seem to work in exactly the same way as the others. For example, for the Tamatama no Mi, it gives the user's body the properties of a chicken egg, but requires other external forces to further force the user into other animal forms. And although not canon, we do feel it's necessary to mention Ground's ability, but his is to only transform his left arm for some reason. So as we can see, Zoan fruits have a great variety of transformations, abilities, and even variations among just this one class of devil fruits, making it possible for more than one user to maybe even have the same fruit, but maybe just with different powers. This honestly makes the Zoan class the most powerful and versatile fruit category probably of all 3, being at the top of the fruit rank. I mean, after all, mythical Zoan fruits are not only incredibly powerful, but are much more rare than a lot of the Logia fruits. And not only that, we've seen times where Zoans have straight out beat Logias, as was demonstrated by Marco during the Battle of the Best in Marineford, because he was able to use his healing flames to confront a Kainu, and was able to keep a Kainu from attacking him with his magma fruit. And even if you think about the level of destruction that Kaido can dish out, I mean, he broke down an entire mountain in just one attack. This is something that even the strongest of Logia users might have a hard time doing. So as we move forward in our story, and we look to see how our wonderful rubber captain uses his fruit powers, we may get to see that his Zoan fruit, not only being one of the rare mythical Zoan types, may be even more special at the diversity of everything he's able to do with his imagination. But with all that said, my friends, we'd love to know what you think about it now. How many different transformations do you think Luffy might have? Do you consider his gear maybe gear 4th, maybe some of his hybrid forms, or do you think we can go all the way back to gear 2nd? Next, if you were to get a Zoan fruit, what kind would you want and why? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video, I want to thank you all so much for watching the video all the way up to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like or hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Really hope to see you all in our next video. Let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.